Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the nation right here. TYT Nation, Jeff Waller here with you on this Wednesday. Midweek hump day. So, we got a lot of great stories on today. And yes, by the way, new windscreen. So thank you guys. This is what happens when you donate to TYT Nation. You actually make sure that I can get stuff that helps make the show a little bit better. So, not saying anything except for patreon.com/TYTNation. Okay, so on that, before I get into detailing, doing the breakdown of what we're going to talk about today, I do want to thank some patrons. Let's see. Patreon.com/TYTNation. Mary Lou Lambertson, Noel Suskin, Alias Odelstad, and that's all the and Connor Scarrett. Those are the patrons of the day, so thank you for supporting independent progressive media. That really, really helps. So thank you. Also, thanks to the channel members as well. So you can join either. Either one helps me. And, of course, this is how we're getting through the demonetization. So yesterday, 3 out of 4 of the videos that I placed up and the live stream demonetized. So, yeah, you can't mention... There's a lot of stuff that apparently you cannot mention, and one of it includes, like, events where there's tragedy. Well, 90% of the show is tragedy, so I don't know. But anyway, so that's demonetization, and it sucks, as usual. But okay, so let's go to the stories that we're going to talk about today. We have Donald Trump owing a city over $500,000. Deadbeat Trump. We have the green shirt guy, which is Trump supporters being laughed out of a city council meeting. That's a fun video. Can't wait to show you that. Representative Castro is triggering Republicans after he basically released some donor data. So we'll get into that, whether or not that's doxing. Then we have, of course, one of the students for Trump, the founder, admitting that, oops, he scammed a lot of people out of money. We have Senator Suzanne Collins, of course, and then we've got a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau story that's really important. It has to do with debt collection and debt collectors. And so that's really important. We're going to talk about that, how the CFPB is now allowing debt collection companies to screw you over. So, oh, great. Yeah, that's lots of fun. Okay, so we've got a pretty full show today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. That helps get the word out. We've been seeing some really, really good turnout when it comes to people actually watching the live stream, so that's awesome. So let's get those numbers up there, and one way you can help, of course, is by sharing. All right. Anyway, let's... thank you, Andrew. I appreciate that. I love hearing that what I do is important, because sometimes, look, we have doubts. Like, we look at the state of politics and we look at the state of the world, and we tend to wonder, like, is what we're doing making a difference? Are we making a difference out there? Because sometimes when you look at the stuff that's going on, you think, no, I don't feel like I'm having any sort of impact. But when I get messages like that, from... I just had his name up here too, Andrew Potter. That makes all the difference, right? And I'm terrible at remembering names, so I always have to make sure to make sure I get it right. But thank you for that message and those messages. That really does make me feel like I'm actually doing something important, and that's great. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get to the first story. Let's talk about how much Donald Trump's a deadbeat. All right. So we know President Trump doesn't like paying his bills. I mean, we've got a lot of records of that. And one of the newest examples is the city of El Paso, Texas, whom the Trump campaign owes nearly, not nearly, over $500,000. Oops. Now, this is according to an article in HuffPost. The Trump campaign owes the city of El Paso $569,204 from a rally he held back in February. Now, okay, so homeboy holds a rally back in February. And then, of course, there's, all the security concerns and all that. And, of course, paying for the venue, et cetera, because it's a campaign event. Now, if it were the president visiting, that would be something different. That wouldn't actually, cost the president anything. The city would front that, or the government would front that. But this is Donald Trump's personal campaign rally. He's supposed to pay for that. That comes out of his money. And it's not like homeboy don't have money. His campaign is awash with millions of dollars in corporate donations. Hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's been a while since he had that rally. Maybe he should pay his bills. And in case you're wondering, yes, there are receipts. Literally. In fact, the city of El Paso decided to send Trump a bill back in April of this year. The bill sent to the Trump campaign was initially $470,417.05, but a one-time 21% late fee was added after the campaign failed to pay it by June, according to the Texas Tribune. He didn't pay his bills. He got a late fee. That is one enormous late fee, right? So now the city sent the Trump campaign a letter back in May asking that he pay his outstanding debt to 6 different departments. That request was apparently ignored. No correspondence, no nothing, no money, nada. Now, is this a shock to anybody? Of course not. But nonetheless, the city of El Paso is like, hey man, look, they sent this letter that read, "We are contacting you regarding the invoice listed above. We realize this may be an oversight on your part. However, your account with the city of El Paso is extremely past due." I love how they give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh man, maybe this is just an oversight and you just kind of got the mail lost in the shuffle and, whatever. Oh, that's okay. Here, we've got this bill and we're sending a follow-up and we're making sure to, follow up with you. And yes, we've got a late fee. And oops, you got to pay us. You owe us the money. And it's as simple as that, right? Now, the thing is, it's funny that they do this as if they don't know that Donald Trump has been doing the same exact thing for decades. In fact, federal and city financial records obtained by the Washington Post show that the Trump administration and Congress owe more than $7 million to Washington, D.C. for his inauguration. Now, Donald Trump's been in office for how long? Quite some time now, right? And he still hasn't paid for his inauguration. There's more, of course. But D.C.'s mayor also recently asked Donald Trump to reimburse her approximately $1.7 million in costs related to the July 4th Salute to America celebration. Now, this is a celebration in which obviously it cost a lot of money. He had to have his tanks and he had to have his planes, etc. And this is full military show of force, etc. Right? This is what bankrupted the city of Washington, D.C. They're like, we don't have any money because we had to pay for Donald Trump's stupid parade. So now we're asking him, hey, you need to pay us that $1.7 million because we can't afford it. We don't have the money. Well, I hate to say it, guys. You were never going to see that money. Again, the president's look, for a supposed billionaire, right? He seems to suck at paying his bills. I mean, look, you guys remember I did the story back during the campaign. Or it was a little bit after he got elected, right, that he had won the election, that he still owed the Freedom Girls. It's this little group, girls that would come to his campaign and perform, right? He stiffed those people, the Freedom Girls. And still, the guy that runs the troop is like, man, I'm trying to get this money. I think he launched a lawsuit, but was still in favor of Donald Trump. Oh, I know he'll eventually give us the money. It must be an oversight. Idiot. That's Donald Trump's M.O. He can't help but stiff you out of money. And now here's the irony part, right? Or the ironic part. Donald Trump, look, he says he's very pro-police, very law and order, right? I love the police, I love law and order, and all that. Well, you know what's funny is that the majority of the $500,000 he owes to the city of El Paso is to the police and fire department. That's according to the bill obtained by the Texas Tribune. Oops. These are the police officers that protect his rallies, that he supports. But Donald Trump is so much of a bum, a deadbeat, that he decides, my bills, not going to pay him. Don't care. And this is not all he owes. As I mentioned, there's the $1.7 million. There's also the $7 million for the inauguration. There's more. The Center for Public Integrity reported back in June that the Trump campaign still owes more than $840,000 to 10 different cities. That includes El Paso, by the way, for public safety costs associated with his political rallies, some of which go back to his first presidential campaign. What a bum. Why don't you take his personal responsibility? Why don't you pay your bills? You deadbeat, you bum. That is not the actions of somebody who's a very wealthy person. No, that's the actions of a scam artist. And now, some of these cities, El Paso is one of the latest ones, say, look, we don't want you coming back. Alexandra Anello, member of the El Paso City Council, recently said this, quote, I do not support President Trump's visit to El Paso, and I respectfully ask him not to come. He's not the only one. El Paso County Commissioner David Stout also said this, quote, I respectfully ask that President Trump not visit our grieving and pain-stricken community. Furthermore, he added, the added strain of a presidential visit is the last thing our law enforcement and public entities need to deal with at this time. And of course, that probably includes the debt that Donald Trump will run up because he loves spending millions and millions of dollars that aren't his and then not paying it back. Again, he's been bankrupt 6 times. He spends people's money and then says, well, not my problem. I'm just going to walk away. That's who Donald Trump is. Look, normally a presidential visit, especially after a tragedy, is a welcome thing. Be it Democrats or Republicans, etc., right? It doesn't matter. But Donald Trump is both toxic and a complete bum. And he's so much of both that now there are people saying, we do not want you coming to our cities. And you know what? That sets a terrible precedent, right? Because, look, again, you've got people in El Paso saying, we don't want Trump to come, right? You've got people in Democratic-led cities now that are saying, we don't want Donald Trump to visit. Again, terrible precedent, right? Because then the right wing is going to respond in kind. Now, they're going to respond for ridiculous reasons. I can understand saying, look, you promote hate, and so we don't want you here, right? I get that. You promote hate, division, and you also owe us a butt ton of money that you failed to pay us the last time that you were here for our police and our fire services. So we don't want you to come here. Right wing is going to say, we just don't like you because you're a Democrat, and therefore we're not going to invite you to our city. You are not welcome here. That's the precedent because their snowflake's going to melt. I can see it already. And so this ultimately will lead to a mess, a disaster, of course. And it's all thanks to the cheapness of our bum-in-chief, President Trump. Gotta get this guy out of office, man. Ridiculous. All right. Moving on. Green shirt guy. All right.
Okay, now everybody.
We call Mayor Rothschild. Steve Roy for Congress. Quiet. Maybe you got you worrying about your whole life.
So that was 2 Trump supporters. You couldn't see the other one. Literally getting laughed out of a city meeting in Tucson, Arizona. I love that. And by the way, green shirt guy is now, look, he's turning into a meme. It's already fun. Now, this happened during a city council meeting on whether or not to make Tucson a sanctuary city, the first sanctuary city in Arizona. So now, during this meeting, you had a pair of Trump supporters that decided to protest. Well, of course, that's their right. And obviously, it did not go well. So let me give you a little context here. Now, voters will decide November 5th whether to authorize city officials and others to enforce immigrant-friendly initiatives that have already been in place since 2012. Now, Tucson has actually designated itself a city that welcomes immigrants, right? No, that's good, right? In America, I think we should all be welcoming to immigrants because we are all immigrants unless you're a Native American. Then, of course, if you're a Native American, you have all the rights to complain about criminal invaders. Just saying. Now, in response to this, the Republican Party of Pima County decided to file a lawsuit challenging the initiative. And this is the meeting about that. And obviously, during that meeting, and I'm going to show you more of that video for the rest of the context, you will see this pair of Trump supporters speaking out loudly against Tucson becoming a sanctuary city. Take a look.
City does not change or defy immigration laws. That is Congress's job to change immigration laws. American citizens, respect our laws. Respect our laws. You're in direct violation of the oath you took to the United States Constitution, Mayor Rothschild.
Okay, I request that you,
Yes, sir.
You're in direct violation of being a jack.
okay, now everybody,
We call Mayor Rothschild. Steve Roy ready for Congress.
Quiet, 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 quiet,
Maybe you guys
quiet,
should worry about your whole
I love that. And you know why I love that? Because that's the exact response they deserve. To be laughed at. Nothing, no violence, nothing like that, which is great. These Trump supporters, they were able to speak their piece. And then, of course, the people who are against them were able to speak their piece. And then, of course, they ended up getting gently escorted out. Perfect. Guess what? That's democracy. We love it. I love democracy. I don't know about you. And of course, there's an added bonus of them being laughed out of the room, which is always fun. So now let's look at some of the substance here. Even though, again, we're having a good time, right? She says Congress makes the laws. Well, yeah, that would be correct, right? But here's the problem. On immigration reform, Congress isn't doing anything. We've had plenty of bipartisan legislation or attempts to do something about immigration, which would include sending more immigration judges down to the border. That's what we need. But they keep getting derailed by Republicans who keep demanding to have funding for Donald Trump's ridiculous border wall. So that's what's stopping this. They want billions and billions of dollars for a wall that is not going to work. And so that is holding up immigration reform. And it's not just, the Trump era. Before, we were arguing about, a pathway to citizenship. At one point, there were Republicans like Marco Rubio that were open to it that would then later on during the vote tank their own bill. So I don't know what the situation here is. I believe that Republicans are afraid of their base, which have grown virulently anti-immigrant, and even more so under Donald Trump. So now, on sanctuary cities, look, here's the thing. Sanctuary cities save the government money. I know. It stops using government resources to go after non-criminal aliens who, by the way, pay taxes but never get anything back. Now, it also allows these, undocumented immigrants to be able to get educated, to learn English, to get a job, to which, of course, they end up paying taxes. I don't see an issue with that. I don't. I actually think it's really smart. At least, look, until we get some sort of documented pathway to citizenship passed through Congress, which at this point, not really going to happen. Now, under normal circumstances, if this if this country were a little bit more normal and not filled with insane people, we would have a bipartisan bill that would be able to get through Congress. Most of the country agrees that we should have some sort of pathway to citizenship, that we should do some sort of immigration reform. So I would love to be able to do that. And again, if things were normal, we would be able to do that. Now, there's one more point here, and that's about hypocrisy, right? So now Republicans, they're supposed to be about small government, right? Smaller the better, right? So local government passing laws that reflect their city or their state, that's small government, right? So, and look, Republicans, they say it all the time, right? Small government, small government. We want smaller government. We want Washington to stop dictating what's going on. Well, now, what is smaller and more local than your local city government? Nothing. Again, that is small government. And yet these Trump supporters are saying, we hate small government. We hate it when cities are able to do their thing. We hate it when cities pass their own laws. No, we want the federal government to make these laws and to say that sanctuary cities are bad. And that's it, right? In reality, Republicans love big government. I mean, they want to tell you who to marry, what women can do with their bodies, etc., right? And what, obviously they want to tell cities whether or not they can welcome immigrants. They only love small government when it means that they can discriminate against a group of people. When it comes to anything else, anything positive, they love to, crush the small government. They love to put their boot on the heels of the people, or on the necks of the people, right? So that's why it's funny to see these Trump supporters scream about respecting small government in the Constitution, when in reality, they just love to cherry pick the Constitution when it suits them politically and when it allows them to hate who they want to hate. Okay. Move on. Let's go to San Antonio. Now, Republicans are in mid-meltdown over San Antonio Representative Joaquin Castro after he released public information about some of Donald Trump's big donors. Now, he recently tweeted out, and the tweet basically involved a graphic that included names and employers of 44 big Trump donors that gave the maximum amount to President Donald Trump. Now, along with this graphic, he tweeted this: "It's sad to see so many San Antonians as 2019 maximum donors to Donald Trump. These contributions are fueling a campaign of hate that labels Hispanic immigrants as invaders." Now, again, that graphic, it had the names and employers of these Trump donors, but no other additional information. Now, following this, Republicans, politicians, and Trump campaign officials went off the deep end. They called this harassment. They called this doxing. Now, let me give you Trump Communications Director Tim Murtaugh. Now, he tweeted this out, quote, "At the very least, Castro for Congress is inviting harassment of these private citizens. At worst, he's encouraging violence. Will media concerned about rhetoric care about this? He's listing people and their employers. This is a target list." And there are Republicans out there that are making comparisons between the Dayton shooters target list and this supposed target list, which in reality is just saying these are the people that are donating to Donald Trump's campaign. And this is where they work. Maybe we should boycott their business. There's more. House Minority Whip Steve Scalise said this, quote, "People should not be personally targeted for their political views." Again, nobody's targeted anyone for their political views, but for giving the maximum amount of campaign donations to a certain president. But there's more. He said, "This isn't a game. It's dangerous, and lives are at stake. I know this firsthand." Well, Steve Scalise actually would know this firsthand. He was actually targeted and shot back in 2017 on a baseball field or a softball game. by somebody who was a unhinged Bernie Sanders supporter. Now, I am a Bernie Sanders supporter. I don't think that guy was left wing at all. But on his social media, he said stuff about, "Oh, I'm in favor of Bernie Sanders. I'm progressive or whatever." Well, let's like one thing clear: it is not progressive to do violence. So, of course, we all denounced that immediately. Everybody on the left said, "That is not what we do. We are not in favor of this. We 100% wholly denounce that man," right? But now Steve Scalise is saying, and by the way, he did nothing about gun control. He's still massively in favor of guns, despite being shot by somebody who had easy access to this weaponry. Instead, he's saying, "Oh, look at it. It's your rhetoric. See, you are targeting these people by releasing publicly available information. How dare you?" There's more. House Republican minority leader Kevin McCarthy tweeted this, quote, "Targeting and harassing Americans because of their political beliefs is shameful and dangerous. What happened to when they go low, we go high?" For one, I think it's funny that they're basically admitting that Republicans, we go low all the time. Yep, you do. It's true. Now, here's the thing, right? Now, you might hear this and think, okay, look, that's sensible, right? You're putting people in danger. You're putting they're putting their information out there so, these left-wingers can go and call them and harass them and et cetera, right? Well, again, for one, anybody can access this information. In fact, it is required by law that these donors have not their address or their phone number or anything like that, but their name, their donation, and their employer. That's just federal disclosure laws, right? So there's nothing out there that they release that nobody, that somebody else just couldn't go and look up, right? It's publicly available information. All Castro did was just say, "Well, I'm going to take this publicly, released information, and I'm going to tweet it out." That's it. That's not doxing. That's not, targeting people for their political beliefs, right? So now, again, where is the doxing? And again, there's a lot of these Republicans out there claiming that this is putting people in danger. Well, where is the danger? Well, I think it's because it's projection. I think Republicans love to dox and love to do violence against their political opponents. So they think, wait, if they're releasing our names, people who support Trump, well, then they must be doxing and getting ready to do violence against us. But the thing is, we are not like them. This is why I personally and a lot of progressives disagree with the methods of Antifa. It's because to us, violence is unacceptable, right? Now, look, everybody wants to punch Nazis, right? I want to punch a Nazi. But I don't, because that hands to right-wing ammunition that they can use against us. And the media will sadly go along with it and say, "Oh, look at that. It's all the left-wing violence." Again, they love to use that against us. So the best way to do things is to stay 100% nonviolent. So now you also might ask, but wait a minute. You say violence is unacceptable, but how is this acceptable, right? You outed these people, these donors. Well, again, these are the people who gave the maximum amount to Donald Trump. And it's public information, right? But it's also to show, and the reason that they release this information is, of course, to say, look at what you're funding. Look at what these people are giving money to. Donald Trump is doing actual damage to the country. And this administration, by giving these donations to this administration, you're saying that I tacitly not only approve of what they're doing, but I will continue to give them money so they will continue to do it. That includes putting children in cages. That includes stoking all the fear and anger that has led to violence. The FBI is saying, look, this right wing that we have in the country, fueled by misinformation and conspiracy theories, is literally dangerous. And who has been spreading those conspiracy theories? The President of the United States and the Republican Party. So I think this is perfectly fine. Because again, we are not like them. Now, here's something that's interesting, right? Now, unlike what Democrats normally do, right, is when there's any sort of hint of Republican criticism, they immediately back down. Oh, no, no, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The right wing, I'm so sorry. In this case, Castro doubled down. He said, I'm not apologizing. In fact, he fired back on Twitter. He said, your campaign has stoked fear of brown-skinned immigrants. Those contributions have been used to pay for over 2,000 Facebook ads declaring an invasion by Hispanics. That is truly dangerous for millions. Will you commit to not run another ad like that? That was directly in response to Tim Murtaugh. Now, I wonder what he was going to say about that. Look, I think it's great when when a Democrat actually stands up for themselves against a Republican. It is about time. And for the last time, again, the Democrats, we're not the violent ones here. We're not the ones that are armed. We're not the ones that are stoking fear against the other. And as long as we continue to fight back non-violently, we will have the moral high ground. So let's continue to do that, to fight back in a way that is nonviolent, and show the people what the right wing is really all about, who these people really are. Okay. All right. So I am going to take a break. We'll come back. We have Donald Trump's Students for Trump. That scammer gets his day in court. And then we have Suzanne Collins, and then the CFPB, how they're allowing they're supposed to protect you against scammers and against debt collectors. Well, it turns out they're actually helping debt collectors, and I've got that story. So stay right here. Please share the stream, and we'll be right back here in a couple of minutes around the nation. Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation right here, TYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. So I remembered something over the break, right? And it's in your comments again. I've been reading your guys' comments, and I'm gonna read and respond to some of them. But one thing I saw somebody mention, but Trump's in favor of doxing, and it made me think of, and I wish I had remembered this during the segment. But Trump had literally doxed Lindsey Graham. I think he read out Graham's cell phone number. Go ahead and call Lindsey. Now, this is back before Lindsey Graham was a toady. But he's like, here, just call Lindsey Graham. This is his cell phone number. I got it on my phone. Oh, my God. Donald Trump is pro-doxing. That's amazing, and I cannot believe that I forgot that point, but thank you guys for offhand reminding me. Okay, so we have some comments here. LL says, first member comments, I'm just going to say it, the female Trump supporter looks like she might be mistakenly detained by ICE. Don't these people think that white supremacists will come for them once it becomes convenient? They never think about that. Oh, no, what are you talking about? I'm the good one. I mean, again, the story that I did on the Trump supporter and his wife. Well, his wife was a smart one, right? And said, wait a minute, I'm a little bit worried about your vote for Donald Trump. He's like, oh, no, baby, don't worry about it. You're one of the good ones. You don't have a crime. You don't have a criminal record, etc. No, she got so scared that she self-deported. Either that or she wanted to get away from him. I don't know. Maybe it's the second one after all. But no, it's cognitive dissonance, man. They don't get it. They don't understand. The Jinxana says the green shirt guy is the best. Agreed. He's the new Ken Bone. Oh, I hope it doesn't turn out like Ken Bone though. Jeanette Villalona says the wall is stupid. Will never change a thing because they can get here whatever way. Like, I don't know, flying in and overstaying their visa. That's how most of them get here. And then finally, Sarge Tech points out something obvious. This is not doxing. This is just documenting supporters of racism. Which I guess if you're a racist and you're like, you don't want to be known as a racist, then I could understand how you'd be really upset about this. Oh, I don't want people knowing my racism. But anyway, there's comments here from a lot of the members. Thank you for chiming in. And this is like the best part of the show is when I get the feedback from you guys. So I thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Now let's move on. We've got more stories here. Let's go to Students for Trump. All right. Oh, did I say Students for Trump? Right. Okay. In a not so surprising development, the founder of Students for Trump pleaded guilty on Tuesday to running a scam. Now, in this scam, he posed as a lawyer and gave legal advice. That did not go well. Now, as obvious, now the man's name is John Lambert, and he's a 23-year-old Trump supporter. And what he did is that he had created, not allegedly, because he had already been proven that he had done this, he created a website for a fake law firm. A fake website for a fake law firm called Pope and Dunn. Going by the name of Eric Pope, a graduate of NYU Law School with a finance degree from the University of Pennsylvania, that's Wharton, and 15 years of experience in corporate and patent law. Now, this is according to prosecutors. Now, in reality, he held none of those qualifications. It was a complete and total fabrication. Again, he doesn't have 15 years of experience in corporate and patent law. He's only 23. That would make him, what, a college, getting into college, or getting out of college at 8 years old. Ridiculous, right? Now, in Manhattan federal court, he admitted that he engaged in this scheme to take money from people with fees, in fees, with an accomplice who was so far not identified. Now, that same co-conspirator had given details in their scheme, which began at the end of the 2016 election. Now, the duo set up a phone spoofing service that listed their number in the New York area and created this fake law firm. Now, on the website, it said, Pope and Dunn have been known as a leading firm for innovation and traditional efficiency for decades. Now, on that website, it also listed numerous fake attorneys with non-existent credentials. Pope was billed as a graduate of Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, the same school as Donald Trump, by the way, and NYU. He is sought after, according to the website, for his experience with financial and corporate matters due to his ability to mitigate legal scenarios while keeping the growth of his client's business a focal point. Wonderful. Now, an investigation, of course, found that some of these fake bios had been copied and pasted from real lawyers at a real law firm, New York firm Cravath, Swaine, and Moore, according to the New York Law Journal. So how successful were they at being able to get money from people who, that they were able to swindle? Well, prosecutors say that one client had emptied his retirement account to pay Lambert more than $10,000 for help with a credit reporting agency before Lambert had stopped replying to his emails. So this guy literally lost his retirement to this scam artist, $10,000. In total, prosecutors said the scheme brought in more than $50,000 from clients that were bilked by Lambert. So now these are bad people. These are terrible people, Lambert and his co-conspirators. And actually, one of the guys was Farstein, though I don't remember his first name. But he also co-created... Farstein co-created Students for Trump. So that's what he was doing while he was also scamming people out of their money. So it's almost as if he wanted to take after Donald Trump. But is there any shock, right, that these are the same people that flocked to Donald Trump? No, I don't think so. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. Donald Trump himself ran a fake university and a fake charity that they were forced to shut down. Regulators shut down both because they were scamming donors out of their money. And students as well. So this guy looks at that and goes, oh no, I'm going to do that. That's my guy. Though, of course, the only difference between Donald Trump and this, this scam artist, right, is that they're not rich. So, and look, when you're rich, there is a two-tiered justice system in which you don't get in trouble if you have lots of money. Donald Trump's never faced any consequences for any of his scams. Oh, he gets a fine. That's so... That hurts, man. It hurts. Slap on the wrist. Now, Lambert could face some serious, jail time, 21 months in prison. Now, Lambert had pleaded guilty to wire fraud and conspiracy. That is something the president, by the way, might have also done. Now, under his plea deal, he will not appeal a sentence that is 21 months or less in prison, and also agreed to forfeit $46,654. So a lot of that money is going to end up going back to his victims. Now, following the plea deal, Manhattan U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman said this, and I love this, quote, John Lambert represented himself to clients as a prominent New York attorney with a law degree from an elite law school. But Lambert's de facto career was one of a grifter. He had never been to law school and certainly wasn't an attorney. Today, Lambert admitted to his crimes and faces time in prison for his misdeeds. Grifter. That is exactly the word that I would use. And that's who these people are. And again, one grifter just happened to be attracted to Donald Trump in his campaign. Gee, I wonder why. Could it be that birds of a feather often flock together? Or, I guess, grifters of a feather grift together? He's not the only one. So the two guys that created this group, by the way, it's Students for Trump, which, by the way, they're like, oh, no, we don't have anything to do with this guy anymore. He was your founder. Yeah, but we kicked him out after he got arrested. Oh, okay. Well, that's what happened. Right. Uh, now, look, before he got in trouble, before he got arrested, he was actually quite involved with the Trump campaign. He, for one, shook hands with future Attorney General Jeff Sessions. He had campaigned for Donald Trump, went on TV, did a lot of defense of Donald Trump, campaigning for him, even met with him. Now, the Trump campaign says, oh, what? Who? Lambert? Who? I don't know this guy. No, they met together. The Daily Beast had reported that Lambert and members of the group had attended Donald Trump's invite-only election night party at the Midtown Hilton in New York. These people were deeply tied in with Donald Trump's campaign, all while running this scam on the side. I mean, there are two kinds of people that throw in with Donald Trump. There are people that are scammers, and there are those that are waiting to be scammed. There are mega guys that are watching. Just think for a minute. Which one are you? Okay. Let's go to Suzanne Collins.
Work is going on right now. Will you publicly call on Mitch McConnell?
All right, so that was Senator Suzanne Collins driving off after being directly asked by a college student whether she would call for an emergency session to push for gun control legislation. Now, this video was uploaded by Bowdoin college student Livia Kunins-Berkowitz. Now, Congress is currently under a August recess, right? So they don't have to work. Well, that would be kind of nice, right? Just to be able to go on recess for the entire month. And so this is the time where a lot of Congress goes back to their districts, back to their home states, and for the most part, decides to beg, hold fundraisers and beg corporations for cash. Now, Berkowitz had approached Collins and her staffers on Tuesday afternoon in Portland to ask if a Republican senator would join some of her colleagues on both sides of the aisle to demand that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell reconvene the Senate for an emergency vote on universal background checks. Now, the House had passed two bills along those lines to have universal background checks, and all McConnell would do is just to bring Republicans back and hold a vote. Now, Republicans and Democrats, right? Now, is he going to do that? No. So now I'm going to show you more of this video of Berkowitz trying to flag down, trying to catch Suzanne Collins to try to get her on board. Take a look.
Senator Collins, are you going to call an emergency vote on gun control now? We need the Senate to convene right now to talk about gun control. Yes or no, Senator? I'm scared to go to school. I'm scared to go to my synagogues. Yes or no? An emergency session.
I have been a long-time supporter for emergency background checks.
But we need a session right now or more kids are going to die. More kids are going to die. Okay. Work is going on right now. Will you publicly call on Mitch McConnell? So I just talked to Senator Collins. Her car drove around the block like 6 times to avoid us. And I said, are you going to call an emergency Senate? And she kept saying it's an important issue, but didn't answer yes or no on an emergency Senate meeting. She said it's important, but she didn't say yes or no. She kind of avoided the question, even when I said kids are dying in our schools.
All right, so now here's the thing, right? So Senator Collins, her response to this, just getting driven away and saying, oh, it's important, but I can't give you an answer, I can't commit. That's kind of weird because Susan Collins is not your crazy NRA-obsessed Republican. She is your moderate establishment Republican, right? And she kind of has to be in Maine or else she won't get elected. So not only that, but she's actually on record of saying that she supports universal background checks. So, no, that's weird, but actually not. And I say it's weird because it's a Republican. But in reality, both Republicans and Democrats, at least the voters, agree on background checks for gun purchases. 97% of American voters agree with universal background checks. So I think it's really, really strange how she didn't answer the question. I mean, not even saying, oh, no, I'm going to urge McConnell to call an emergency session, right? Now, whether or not McConnell does it, that's the least that you can do, and at least shows that, hey, look, I do care about this issue. I will urge McConnell to come out, and whether he does it or not, well, that's really up to him. But I'm going to at least, join with my fellow colleagues in saying, hey, we do need to address this issue. We do need to talk about, universal background checks. This is widely supported by the American people. It's basically a layup. And it's super, super weird that she is not in favor of it, that she couldn't give a yes or no answer. And again, I keep saying that it's weird because she's not somebody who takes a lot of money from the NRA. In 2018, I couldn't find any donation that she had taken from the NRA. She's not insane on guns. She's got a C or a C plus rating from the NRA. So I don't know what the deal is. That's really, really weird. Again, this should be very easy to do. Already, you have people from across the aisle. The two that I know of for sure are Senator Bernie Sanders and Sherrod Brown. They were the first lawmakers to demand that McConnell call the Senate back from the recess vote to have a vote on this. Now, I can understand why McConnell doesn't want to vote on this, why a lot of Republicans, first, I don't want Republicans on the record because a lot of Republicans do take money from the NRA. And so they don't want to jeopardize that. They don't want to put them on the record, even on something that's deeply, deeply popular. This is something that even Donald Trump has said, yeah, background checks. Yeah, makes sense. I'm going to do background checks. And then, of course, after he meets with the NRA, he walks that back and says, don't do no background checks. So now, on that case, it's pretty clear that there's some money involved. But with Suzanne Collins, I don't know. Maybe it's just, maybe she doesn't want to be bothered while she goes and begs for money from big donors. She actually does have a couple of challenges now. And so maybe she's like, maybe I might want to look into getting some of that NRA money. Even though I haven't taken it before, maybe I can get something because now I've got a legitimate challenger, and actually a couple of legitimate challengers. One of them is Betsy Sweet, who's a big progressive that has finally taken on, Suzanne Collins because, look, she's in a little bit of danger because of her Kavanaugh vote. And so there's that, right? So I don't know. Here's another very generous possibility. Maybe she just goes, I'm not going to bother because I know Massacre Mitch is going to shoot it down. No matter what, he's not going to bring it to a vote. Why? It's because he calls himself the Grim Reaper. Either way, this is not good for Suzanne Collins. I mean, again, she's facing a lot of heat for Kavanaugh, and now she's facing heat over this and has a progressive challenger. So I think she's in a world of trouble, and running away from your constituents is not going to help. Okay. All right, so we'll do one more piece of good news for one. So let's do this real quick. No sidebar for this one. I didn't get around to it. That's all right. Great news for people who believe in justice. Sex trafficking victim Santoya Brown has just been released from prison after serving 15 years out of a life sentence for killing somebody in 2004. So now, her story is actually an incredibly sad story. I've talked about this before. Brown had basically grown up, as somebody who was, an orphan who was adopted. She fell into hard times. She got involved with a pimp at 16 years old. Ended up being, of course, pimped out, sexually assaulted, verbally, physically assaulted. She went through a horrible, horrible time. Now, during that time, she was picked up by a 43-year-old real estate agent, right, at the parking lot of a Sonic drive-in. And she ended up going to his home. She had a gun, and she ended up, killing Mr. Allen, right? So now she claims, hey, it was self-defense. I thought he was going to rape me. I thought he was going to kill me, right? And that's the whole problem. Now, the prosecutor said, well, she brought the gun so that she could rob him, right? So now, on that information, she was sentenced to life in prison. In fact, they wanted to, Tennessee prosecutors wanted to keep her in prison even longer than a life sentence. But thanks to advocates like, oddly enough, Kim Kardashian, who's like 2 for 2 on this when it comes to helping, women of color, people in bad circumstances be able to, receive clemency, which she did, by the way, from Tennessee Governor Bill Haslam. And I've got to give him credit. I got to give him credit. I got to give Kim Kardashian credit. I even got to give the Trump administration some credit as well, because one of the things that they're actually doing right, even if it's for a selfish reason, is criminal justice reform. So this is another situation where there was a young woman that was put in prison. She was treated as an adult, by the way. She was 16 years old, went through a horrific time, was, again, assaulted in every different way, who, defended herself, basically, and was given a huge life sentence. She had served her time. She had served enough, and she actually is out today. And so it's a great day for justice, for rehabilitation. In fact, she said to the New York Times, I look forward to using my experiences to help other women and girls suffering abuse and exploitation. So she's obviously, a victim and an advocate for women who have been through this. And so, look, I hope that, she takes this second lease on life, this new lease on life, and is able to do a lot of good. And so, again, great day for justice. Okay, that's it. Thank you guys for going around the nation with me. Thank you for the there weren't any super chats today, but thank you for your comments. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and consider becoming a patron. Thank you guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow.